I filmed 43 seconds of a 9-foot creature screaming in actual words while a forest fire raged behind it. And within 2 hours, federal agents were at my station threatening to destroy my career if I ever aired it. They succeeded. I lost everything, but I kept the footage. And after 3 years of digging, I finally know why they were so desperate to bury it. What was it screaming that made the government willing to ruin lives to keep you from hearing it? My name is Jake Martinez. I used to work for Channel 7 News in Portland, Oregon. I shot videos for them for 8 years. Fires, car crashes, city council meetings, the boring stuff and the scary stuff. I was good at my job. I showed up on time. I kept my camera steady. I never missed a shot. That was before September 2023, before I filmed something that cost me everything. It started like any other assignment, the kind we got a dozen times every summer. Forest fire in the Cascades, about 60 miles east of the city. Small one, they said. Contained, they said. Just go get some footage of the cleanup crews and maybe talk to a ranger about fire safety. Easy content for the evening news. My reporter that day was Linda Chen. She'd been doing this for 20 years. Gray hair, calm voice, the kind of person who made everyone feel comfortable on camera. We took the news van and drove out early in the morning while the air was still cool. The smell hit us before we even got close. Smoke and burnt wood. That heavy smell that sticks in your nose and makes your eyes water. We parked at a ranger station where they were coordinating the cleanup. Firefighters walked past us, covered in ash. Their faces were tired. Some of them had been out there for 3 days straight. Linda did her stand-up first. She talked into the camera about acres burned and how the crews had worked hard to protect nearby homes. Standard stuff. My job was to get extra footage we could use to fill time. Burned trees, firefighters working, smoke rising from hot spots, that kind of thing. The ranger told us we could walk about a quarter mile up the trail to get a better view of the damage. He said to stay on the path and don't touch anything while still smoking. Linda stayed back to do more interviews. I grabbed my camera and my thermal camera and headed up alone. The thermal was something we used sometimes for fires. It showed heat as bright colors on a screen. Red and yellow for hot things, blue and purple for cold. It helped us find hot spots that were still dangerous even if you couldn't see flames. The forest was quiet in a wrong way. No birds singing, no squirrels moving in the trees. Just the sound of my boots on ash and dirt. The trees on both sides were black. Some had fallen over. Some were still standing but looked like skeletons. The air tasted like charcoal. I walked slow, filming as I went. The thermal camera hung on a strap around my neck. Every few steps I would check it to see if there were any heat sources worth filming. That is when I saw it on the thermal screen. A massive shape, bright red and yellow, way too big to be a person. It was maybe 50 feet ahead of me, just off the trail behind some burned brush. At first I thought it was a hot spot, a tree still burning on the inside. But then it moved. The shape shifted, took a step. My stomach dropped. I lifted the thermal higher. The shape was standing upright. It had arms, legs, a head, but it was huge, taller than any person I had ever seen. Maybe 9 feet, maybe more. My hands started shaking. I switched to my main camera and pointed it toward the heat signature. For a few seconds, I just saw smoke and burned trees. Then it stepped out. I have filmed a lot of things in my life, accidents, crimes, disasters. Nothing prepared me for what I saw through that lens. It was covered in dark hair, brown and black mixed together. Its shoulders were wider than a refrigerator. Its arms hung down past its knees. The face was flat but not quite human. The eyes were dark and large, and it was scared. I could see it in the way it moved, jerky, fast, looking around like it did not know where to go. Then it opened its mouth and screamed. Not a roar like a bear, not a howl like a wolf. It screamed words, sounds that had shape and pattern. Kota, kota, semana, over and over, loud enough that I heard it clearly even from where I stood. My finger pressed the record button. I did not think about it. I just did it. Training kicked in. Keep the shot steady. Keep it in frame. Do not move. The creature kept screaming. Its chest heaved. Its hands opened and closed. It turned its head left and right like it was searching for something. That is when I saw them on the thermal. 3 smaller shapes behind it. Much smaller, maybe 4 feet tall. They were huddled together near a fallen log. The big one kept looking back at them. Then it screamed again. The same sounds, kota, kota, semana. My brain finally caught up. It was calling to them, the little ones, its family. It was not attacking. It was not hunting. It was panicking. The fire had pushed them out of wherever they lived. And now this thing, this creature that was not supposed to exist, was standing in burned forest screaming for its children to follow. I kept filming. My camera never shook. My breathing was loud in my own ears, but my hands stayed steady. 43 seconds. That is how long it lasted. The creature took one last look around, made one more call, then it turned and moved back into the trees. The 3 smaller shapes followed. I watched them disappear on the thermal screen. The heat signatures got smaller and dimmer until they were gone. I stood there for a long time after. My heart pounded. My mouth was dry. I looked down at my camera screen and hit playback. There it was. Clear as anything I had ever filmed, a 9-foot-tall creature covered in hair, screaming actual sounds, and behind it, barely visible through the smoke, you could see the smaller ones moving. I had proof, real proof, the kind people had been looking for forever. I saved the file 3 times, once on the camera, once on a backup card, and I airdropped it to my phone before I even walked back down the trail. When I got back to the van, Linda took one look at my face and asked what was wrong. I told her I needed to show her something. We sat in the van and I played the footage on the camera screen. She watched it twice without saying a word. Then she looked at me with this expression I had never seen before. Fear and excitement mixed together. "This is going to change everything," she said. We drove back to the station faster than we should have. Neither of us talked much. We both knew what we had. We just did not know yet what it was going to cost us. We got back to the station at 2 in the afternoon. Linda went straight to find our station manager. His name was Greg Paulson. He had an office on the 2nd floor with windows that looked out over the parking lot. I followed her up the stairs with my camera still in my hands. My palms were sweating. Greg was eating a sandwich at his desk when we walked in. He looked annoyed until he saw our faces. Then he put the sandwich down. Linda closed the door behind us. "Show him," she said to me. I connected my camera to his computer and pulled up the file. Greg leaned forward in his chair. The footage played. 43 seconds of the creature stepping out of smoke. The screaming. The smaller shapes in the background. When it finished, Greg did not move. His face had gone completely white, like all the blood had drained out. He stared at the screen for maybe 10 seconds. Then he picked up his desk phone. "Who are you calling?" Linda asked. He held up one finger. Someone answered on the other end. "We need to talk," Greg said into the phone. His voice was quiet, tight. "It is important. No, it cannot wait." He hung up and looked at us. "Do not show this to anyone else. Do not upload it. Do not even talk about it. I need to make some calls." Linda started to argue, but he cut her off. "I am serious. Not a word. Go home, both of you. I will call you later tonight." Something about the way he said it made my skin crawl. Linda and I left the office. In the hallway, she grabbed my arm. "Something is wrong," she said. "I know," I told her. We went down to the break room. Neither of us wanted to leave yet. We sat at the plastic table and drank bad coffee and tried to make sense of what just happened. "Maybe he is calling a lawyer," Linda said. "Maybe he wants to make sure we own the rights to it before it goes out." That made sense, but it did not feel right. Greg had looked scared, not excited, not amazed, scared. 2 hours later, Greg called us back to his office. When we got there, 2 men were sitting in the chairs across from his desk. They both wore dark suits, white shirts, plain ties. They looked like they had been made in the same factory. One was older with gray at his temples. The other was younger, maybe 30, with a tight jaw and cold eyes. Neither of them smiled when we walked in. Greg looked even worse than before. There was sweat on his forehead. The older man stood up. He did not offer to shake hands. He said his name was Mr. Carver. He said he worked with the Department of the Interior. He did not show us a badge. He did not show us any identification at all. The younger man never gave his name. He just stared at us like we had done something wrong. Mr. Carver asked if we had the footage. I told him it was on my camera. He held out his hand. I looked at Greg. Greg nodded, so I gave it to him. Mr. Carver took the camera and handed it to the younger man. Then he sat back down and folded his hands in his lap. He told us the footage was part of an ongoing federal investigation. He said there was a classified wildlife study happening in that area. He said what we filmed was evidence. He used the word voluntary about 6 times. Handing over the footage is voluntary. Signing this agreement is voluntary. But then he started talking about the Endangered Species Act. He said filming an undocumented species without proper permits was a federal crime. He said harassment of protected wildlife could mean fines, could mean jail time, could mean years in court. Linda tried to argue. She said we did not harass anything. We were just there filming the fire cleanup. Mr. Carver smiled, but his eyes stayed flat. He said that would be for a judge to decide. He said the legal process could take years. He said it would be expensive. He said the station could lose its broadcast license. Greg looked like he might throw up. The younger man opened a briefcase and pulled out papers. Non-disclosure agreements. Greg signed first, then Linda. They both looked at me. I knew I should sign. I knew what would happen if I did not. But something in my chest felt tight and hot. I signed the paper. Mr. Carver took my camera. He took the backup card. He asked if there were any other copies. I said no. I lied right to his face. The copy I had airdropped to my phone was still there, buried in my photos. They did not ask to see my phone. Maybe they thought I was too scared to lie. Maybe they were sloppy. I do not know. They left with everything. The office felt cold after they walked out. Greg told us to go home again. He said we did the right thing. He said it would blow over. But 2 days later, I got called into his office alone. Someone had checked the van's Wi-Fi logs. They saw the airdrop transfer. Greg said I had violated the agreement. He said I had lied to federal agents. He said the station could not keep me anymore. I was fired, effective immediately. Security walked me out. I did not even get to clean out my locker. Linda called me that night. She was crying. They had forced her into early retirement. 30 years of work. Gone. They told her if she fought it, they would make sure no one in the industry ever hired her again. We were done. Both of us. Our careers burned down faster than that forest. I spent the next 3 weeks in my apartment trying to figure out what to do. I could not let it go. I started searching online. Forums, Reddit threads, anywhere people talked about Bigfoot sightings, and I started finding them. Other camera operators, other journalists, all with the same story. Clear footage, federal agents showing up, threats, NDAs, careers destroyed. I counted 6 people in 3 weeks, all in the Pacific Northwest, all in the last 10 years. One guy sent me a screenshot of a deleted Reddit comment. It was from a Forest Service ranger. The comment mentioned something called Protocol 7. That was it. No details, no explanation, just those 2 words. When I tried to find the user, the account was gone, deleted. But those words stuck in my head. Protocol 7, it sounded official. It sounded like something that had been around for a long time, like a system, like they had done this before, like they would keep doing it. I realized then that this was bigger than my footage, bigger than me and Linda. This was organized. This was planned. Someone had been covering this up for years, and they were very good at it. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe. I don't want you missing out on tomorrow's new Bigfoot story. Thanks for watching. The email came 4 months after I lost my job. I was working at a grocery store by then, stocking shelves, wearing a name tag, trying to pay rent. I checked my personal email on my lunch break, and there it was. The subject line said only you are asking the right questions. The sender was a random string of letters and numbers. No name. The email had been sent through some kind of privacy service that hid the real address. The message was short. It said the person had worked for the United States Forest Service for 23 years. It said they had retired 6 months ago. It said they knew about Protocol 7. It said if I wanted the truth, I should create a secure messaging account and send the username to a specific anonymous Dropbox. Then the email would delete itself in 24 hours. I read it 5 times. My hands shook so bad I almost dropped my phone. I did what the email said. That night, I created the account and sent the username. 2 days later, I got a message. The person used the name Forest Watcher. Nothing else. They told me to never use their real name, to never try to find out who they were. If I agreed, they would tell me everything. I agreed. The first thing Forest Watcher told me was that the government had known about them for a long time. Not years, decades, maybe longer. The creatures were real. They had a population spread across the Pacific Northwest, mostly in Washington and Oregon, some in Northern California and Idaho. The best guess was between 2,000 and 3,000 individuals. They lived in family groups. They avoided humans. They were smart. Smart enough to stay hidden. Smart enough to know what guns were. Smart enough to teach their young to run when they heard vehicles or voices. I asked why the government would hide this. Forest Watcher said it came down to money and control. If the creatures were officially recognized, they would be protected under the Endangered Species Act immediately. That would mean no logging in their habitat areas, no mining, no drilling, no new roads. Millions of acres would become off limits. The timber industry would lose billions of dollars. Mining companies would lose access to resources. Towns that depended on those industries would collapse. Politicians would lose funding and support. So the decision was made a long time ago to keep it quiet. There was more. Forest Watcher said that indigenous tribes had always known about them, had stories and names for them going back hundreds of years. If the creatures were proven real, it would validate those tribal accounts. It would strengthen land claim cases. It would prove that the tribes had been telling the truth about their territories and what lived there. The government did not want that either. But the biggest reason, Forest Watcher said, was fear. Not fear of the creatures, fear of the public reaction. If people found out that something this big had been living alongside them without anyone knowing, they would start asking what else was out there. What else had been hidden? Trust in institutions would crack. People would panic. They would demand answers. Demand access to classified files. The government decided it was easier to just bury it. Protocol 7 was the system they used. Any clear footage or physical evidence was seized. Witnesses were silenced with legal threats or NDAs. Anyone who pushed back lost their job or faced charges. Reports were classified or destroyed. Bodies were removed and disposed of quietly. It had been happening since at least the 1970s, maybe earlier. Forest Watcher had seen it happen dozens of times. I asked about my footage, about the screaming. Forest Watcher told me to find someone who studied the sounds. There was a linguist who had spent years analyzing audio recordings from the woods, sounds that hunters and hikers had captured, sounds that people online called samurai chatter, deep, fast vocalizations that had structure, that had patterns. Forest Watcher gave me a name, Dr. Sarah Voss. She taught at a university in British Columbia. I called Dr. Voss the next day. I did not tell her everything. I just said I had audio of strange sounds from the Cascades and wanted her opinion. She agreed to listen. I sent her a clip of just the audio, no video. She called me back 3 hours later. Her voice was shaking. She said the sounds matched the pattern of other recordings she had studied. She said the phrase I captured, Kota Semana, appeared in at least 4 other recordings from different locations. Based on context and repetition, she believed it meant something like, "Children here, danger here." It was a distress call, a warning, a parent trying to protect their young. My stomach turned, I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat on my couch and stared at the wall. The creature in my footage had not been attacking. It had not been threatening. It had been begging, screaming for help in a language we did not understand. And I had watched it happen, had filmed it, had done nothing. I messaged Forest Watcher again. I asked what happened to them, to the family in the footage. There was a long pause before the reply came. Forest Watcher told me to look at incident reports from the ranger station nearest to where I filmed. September 24th, 3 days after my footage, I searched online and found the local news. There was a tiny article buried on page 6 of the regional section. 3 unidentified animals found dead in the burn zone. Suspected smoke inhalation. Bodies removed by Forest Service. No further details. I pulled up a map. The location in the article was 2 miles from where I had been standing. 2 miles from where I filmed that creature screaming. I asked Forest Watcher if those were the young ones. The answer came fast. Yes, 3 juveniles. Estimated age between 4 and 7 years old based on size. They had been found together near a fallen log, buried in an unmarked location. No investigation, no public record. The adult was never found. Probably fled deeper into the mountains. Probably still out there. Alone. I closed my laptop and put my head in my hands. For 4 months I had been angry about losing my job, angry about the cover-up, angry about the lies. But now all I felt was sick. Those 3 small shapes on my thermal camera were dead. The creature that had screamed for them was gone, and the government had cleaned it up like it never happened. Like they were nothing, like their lives did not matter because admitting they existed would cost too much money. Forest Watcher sent one more message that night. They said I had a choice to make. I could keep quiet and try to rebuild my life, or I could fight back. But if I chose to fight, I needed to be ready, because they would come for me harder than before. They would not just take my job. They would try to destroy everything. I did not answer right away. I sat with it. Thought about those 3 bodies buried somewhere in secret. Thought about that screaming. Thought about the fact that this would keep happening unless someone stopped it. I messaged back. I told Forest Watcher I was ready. I asked what I needed to do. The reply was simple. Release the footage. All of it. Everywhere at once. Make it impossible to contain. Then get ready for the storm. I spent 2 days getting ready. Forest Watcher sent me instructions. Create accounts on every major platform. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, all with different usernames, all with fresh email addresses that could not be traced back to me. Upload the footage to all of them at the exact same time. 3 in the morning was best. That way it would have a few hours to spread before anyone noticed, before they could react. I also made copies, lots of copies. I put the video file on 12 different USB drives. I mailed them to people I trusted, friends from college, my cousin in Texas, an old coworker who had moved to Florida. I told them to keep the drives safe, not to watch them yet, just to hold on to them. I had a feeling I might need backup. The night before I did it, I barely slept. I kept playing the footage over and over on my phone, watching that creature step out of the smoke, hearing it scream, seeing those small shapes behind it, knowing what happened to them. At 2:30 in the morning, I got out of bed and made coffee. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from something else, anger maybe, or purpose. I sat down at my laptop and opened all the accounts. The video file was ready. I had written a description to go with it. Short and simple, just the facts. Where I filmed it, when, what happened after. At exactly 3 a.m., I hit upload on all of them at once, then I waited. For the first hour, nothing happened. The view count stayed low, a few dozen people here and there. Then around 4:30, it started to pick up. Someone on Reddit linked to it, then someone on Twitter. The numbers started climbing. Hundreds, then thousands. By 6 a.m., it was everywhere. My phone started buzzing with notifications, comments, shares, messages from people I had not talked to in years. By 9 a.m., the YouTube video alone had over 1 million views. I watched it spread like a fire. People were arguing in the comments. Some said it was fake. Some said it was the clearest footage they had ever seen. Some said they heard the screaming in their head hours after watching. News websites started picking it up. Small ones at first, blogs, independent journalists, then bigger outlets. By noon, it was on the front page of Reddit, trending on Twitter. TikTok was full of people reacting to it, recording themselves watching it for the first time, their faces going from curious to shocked to silent. The view count kept climbing. 2 million, 5 million, 10 million. I could not look away from the screen. It felt like watching a wave I had started but could not control anymore. By 6 p.m., just 15 hours after I uploaded it, The total views across all platforms hit 40 million. 40 million people had seen it, had heard that screaming. I sat back in my chair and let out a breath I did not know I was holding. That is when the takedown started. YouTube removed it first, said it violated community guidelines, misinformation policy. Facebook followed an hour later. Twitter suspended the account. Instagram took it down for false content. One by one, the platform scrubbed it. But it was too late. People had already downloaded it, re-uploaded it, shared it in private groups. It was out there now, living in hard drives and phones and cloud storage all over the world. The official response came the next morning, a statement from the Department of the Interior. They called the footage a well-executed hoax, said it had been reviewed by experts who confirmed it was digitally altered. They said they were investigating who created it and would pursue legal action for spreading false information and causing public panic. They did not mention Protocol 7. They did not mention the decades of cover-up. They just called me a liar and moved on. 2 days later, I got served a federal lawsuit. They were charging me with violating the NDA, with theft of government property, with a list of other things I could barely understand. The lawyer I called said I was looking at serious jail time if I lost. Maybe 10 years, maybe more. He said I should settle, should apologize, should make it go away. I told him no. But something strange started happening. Packages began showing up at news stations across the country, small padded envelopes with no return address. Inside each one was a USB drive. The drives contained footage, not just my footage, other videos from other cameras, decades worth, clear shots of creatures in different locations, different times. Some of the footage was old, grainy, from the 70s and 80s. Some was recent, high definition. There were also documents, internal memos, reports with blacked out sections, email chains talking about Protocol 7, instructions on how to suppress evidence, lists of people who had been silenced. Forest Watcher was not alone. Other people inside the system were leaking. The dam was cracking. News stations did not know what to do with it at first. Most were too scared to air it. But a few smaller outlets took the risk. They started reporting on it, questioning the official story, asking why the government was so desperate to call everything fake, why they were threatening a former cameraman with prison for sharing a video. I had to move. My apartment was not safe anymore. People had found my address. Some wanted to help. Some wanted to hurt me. I stayed with friends, moved every few days, kept my phone off most of the time, but I kept checking the news, kept watching the story grow. It was not going away. No matter how hard they tried to kill it, it kept coming back. I am in hiding now. I cannot tell you where. The lawsuit is still happening. My lawyer says it could take years. I might lose everything. My freedom, my future, everything. But I do not regret it, not for a second. Because 40 million people saw what I saw. They heard that creature screaming for its children. They heard a father trying to save his family from a fire that we started, from a world that pretends he does not exist because it is cheaper that way. You do not forget that sound. It gets into your head and it stays there. It changes something, makes you ask questions you did not ask before, makes you wonder what else they are hiding, what else they think we cannot handle knowing. And once you start asking those questions, you cannot stop. They can scrub the internet. They can remove videos. They can threaten lawsuits and call people liars. But they cannot scrub what people saw. They cannot make 40 million people forget. The truth is out there now, not hidden in some classified file, not buried in an unmarked grave. Out there, in the world, in people's minds. I still have the original file. So do a lot of other people now. It is on decentralized servers, torrent sites, places they cannot touch. If you know where to look, you can still find it. You can download it before they find a way to kill it for good. You can hear that screaming yourself, and then you can decide. Decide if you believe the government, or if you believe what your own eyes and ears are telling you. I made my choice. I chose the truth, even if it costs me everything. Because those 3 children buried in secret deserve better. Because that father screaming in the smoke deserved to be heard. And because silence is just another kind of lie.